All right, let's go just a little bit this way with the angle of things. What do we do right there? Can you hear those horns honking? All right, today, okay. Today's the 12th of December. Today's the 12th of December, 2024. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company. We are called In The Image Clothing Company because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. And we discuss the skeletal system of the human body. We focus on the body, not on clothing. The reason we have clothing, the reason we talk about clothing is because, well, we'll have it available. We are a clothing company. Clothing is the only thing that has the highest potential in life to alter our bodies. Meaning, it's the only thing that's placed directly on us. If it's imbalanced or if it's unnatural, if it has stretch within it, it's going to alter the way that our bodies naturally work, and they only work how they do. The skeletal system just connects in the way that it does. Everything in the body has a neutral position, and it just has to be allowed to be there, and the body only works as a whole, staying activated through the entire thing. Now, we're gonna get into this. This is another video in my series for In The Image Clothing Company titled The Truth Behind. This is the truth behind tables. And we'll get into what I'm talking about that when it comes to the mechanics of the human body. So, clothing needs to sit on everybody, regardless if you're a man or a woman, if you're tall or short, skinny or fat, or any age. Clothing needs to sit entirely above the hips for the pants, slightly higher in the front than the rear to keep that core activated. Your core needs to contract to activate, and if your pants are lower in the front, you or I or any human would never be able to fight that, even for a minute, give or take, to keep that core activated. So all your workouts are going down the drain if you are not wearing pants in a correct position, just that one thing alone. And then shirts, the top seams need to sit behind that little bone that is the other end of your collarbone. That just allows them to be in their natural position, them meaning your shoulders, and then ideally just right at the very edges for those edge seams. Okay. Two prerequisites that I've had since before I even founded In The Image Clothing Company, just to allow the body to have a chance to operate natural, and then we get into depth from there. Lace your shoes with the technique that we use for In The Image Clothing Company. Included with that is just to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside. With that technique, you could be sitting on the edge of something with your feet dangling, and there would be no pull or any kind of alteration to your feet at all. It does not alter your feet. Any other thing that you could possibly do combination-wise with shoelacing or tying will. Ours does not. Second prerequisite being to remove all the tags from everything that you wear, all the clothing. It's causing an unnatural gap where it's placed. It's also slippery, even if it's not made out of a synthetic natural material. If it is natural, which is very rare, it's still just really altering the body, putting a gap where that tag is, and not allowing the body to just do its natural thing. Even within the tongues of the shoes, I know that they're hard to remove from personal experience, but sometimes what I'll do is take some scissors and just put slits into the tag, and so that the slipperiness of it is no longer there. That's the whole point, is to be able to dorsiflex your ankle, to lift your toes, okay? A natural thing that the tag won't allow to happen. Okay, so let's discuss tables, and it's gonna be really cool. This is the thing. I talk about the shoulders a lot. The shoulders are huge when it comes to the body. The shoulders play into breathing. The shoulders play into the position of the wrists and the hands. The shoulders play into the curvature of the neck, and then the entire spine, which plays into the pelvis because the shoulders are connected to the pelvis from the spine. And it also plays into the jaw if it's affecting the cervical spine, being your neck, and the jaw is stabilizing the entire body as one of its natural functions. The shoulders play into everything. They play into the arches in your feet. They play into the entire body. There's not anything that you could mention that they don't affect, and if we just say because the body works as a whole. but directly they do a lot to the body. So the shoulders need to just be in their natural position. And I have a video for In the Image Clothing Company titled Shoulders Sit Behind the Body. And I go into the anatomy of the shoulders, the musculature and the bones, and where everything sits in correlation with things clear down at your feet. Because it has to start there. Heels off the shoes, feet entirely flat on the ground as they would naturally be. That's where your shoulder health starts from, is your feet. You can never have healthy shoulders if your feet aren't natural to what your own situation can be. So, meaning just not an external thing altering them. Now, if we think about, like I said, the title of that video, the shoulder's natural position to sit is actually behind the body, like behind your ear, behind your head, behind your rib cage, in the sense of those scapulas, those two big bones on your back that move and allow your shoulders to do like internal rotation and retract. There's mid traps, there's lower traps, upper traps, there's rhomboids in between your shoulder blades, there's your rotator cuff that goes into your shoulder blade. All those muscles plus anything and everything that does a similar motion pull your shoulders naturally back to sit neutral, and then your wrist will be neutral, okay? And the rest of your body, if it's in its neutral position, then it will all just be working together here with your shoulders a little bit behind you. Like, that's why we have the shoulder seams sit behind that little end of the collarbone, because that will place your shoulders behind your body. And I did a video one time titled Shoulder Seams Must Be Behind Shoulders, and I discussed that. So when we think about the body, in order to have range of motion and get your arms out here, get your arms up here, and just move and open and rotate and just breathe is the big one. We have to breathe. That's the foundation of human life. That's the thing that we can go the least amount of time with and still be alive. So shoulders is what's going to, more than anything in the body, affect your breathing. It is. They are. So when you're thinking about shoulders being behind you a little bit, if you're going to be doing anything on a table, you take your arms from their neutral here and put them in front of you. And now those muscles that I was talking about, the traps, especially, let's say your arms are at the same height, like the tops of your shoulders as just standing, and you're doing things at a table, your upper traps can still pretty well work, although they do connect in the rear at the base of your skull, because they adhere to your spine, your cervical spine, and the base of your skull is where they actually contract. That's why they sit behind you, because along with the other things I said, but that's where the traps will contract. So yes, even the upper traps will get altered. The point is, your shoulders sit behind you. I have another video within this series, The Truth Behind, for In the Image Clothing Company, titled The Truth Behind Push vs. Pull. And I discussed how the human body is set up to pull. Look where my shoulders are. Behind me, retracted. All the muscles of the back working to pull. The body is not designed to, I mean, it can do it, but it's not designed for that to be its main way of moving things, for example, is pushing. It is not. Because what you're doing is taking those scapulas and extending, elongating all the muscles on the back that I mentioned that are just stabilizing your shoulders. So you're kind of opposing their natural position when you're pushing, rather than reinforcing it by pulling. And if you're going to be sitting at a table, working on things at a table, whatever, you're doing the same thing as pushing. You're taking your whole body, and the rear of your body is where all the strength naturally is. I've discussed the back, but the glutes and the hamstrings and the calves, really, it's all behind you, and you need to be here. And so once you go to reach over to a table, all that muscle, the hamstrings, get stretched out, as in just elongated. The glutes have to change their natural position. All the stuff up here that I was discussing with the upper back is just elongated. And now it's like you've taken your whole body put it clear in front of your foundation, which is your feet. So we need to be able to be kind of like in the back seat of our bodies. That's how the body naturally works. It's almost like, it seems kind of strange because if you follow your leg down, your feet come out frontward, not behind you. But really, the body works and is designed, and it connects skeletal system wise to be, in a sense, like behind itself. It's kind of how it feels. When you're in a neutral stacked position, when your hip flexors are elongated, when your shoulders are in their natural position, it almost feels, when your body's in a natural position, like you're behind yourself. It really does. Like standing neutral, everything, because the chin tucks back, it's always about like going back, which is strange to think about for me because of what the feet do. They come out, but going in front of them, now all the muscles back here get what I was discussing changed. It really is, that really is something that kind of almost confuses me in a way. Like, I understand how the bones connect, and I understand where the muscles contract and how that works, but just thinking about it from the feet, it does seem a little bit weird, because being on the balls of your feet actually requires you to kind of be sitting with the rest of your body in like the quote-unquote back seat. It is strange, but that's how it is. So anytime you're going to be doing anything with a table, picture a push, okay? And throughout this whole video, and then if you want to, you can go watch the video titled The Truth Behind Push vs. Pull within the Truth Behind series for In the Image Clothing Company. But yeah, because going to reach out to a table, that's what I'm saying is, yeah, your feet are in front of you. So to me, even, it kind of almost makes sense for them to have like more support that way, because it's like you're putting more weight on where your foot can push, like the ball of your foot. But that's not at all how it actually is. So, because what'll happen is, you know, you're standing, activated, neutral, centered, which really kind of feels like you're behind yourself. Really, it does. Especially if you're just getting back into a natural position. It's like, whoa, after years of, you know, external rotation and the front of your body doing work and arches collapsed. Once you do get back into a natural position, it kind of feels like you're really a lot farther back. It really does. Personal experience, I'm speaking out of with that. So when you go over a table, what'll happen is your heels will want to come off the ground, because there's nothing to like stabilize you if they're all the muscles that do that, and just the positions of the bones are being so altered. And so your pelvis will want to do what we talk about when we get in an unnatural position. It's going to want to go anterior, and then just it deactivates things, glute medius, the core, the hamstrings, the upper traps, the back. So keeping that core tucked is really kind of what sets you into the back seat of your body. I love it too within the gospel. I love always talking about like riding in the back seat. You know, like we're not in charge, and so I think there's so much that transitions. I mean, our God created all things, and so even within stuff like that, the human body alone, sitting in the back seat of your body is where everything is just going to work, and you're going to be allowed to just be used as a vessel in a correct way. Correct meaning, you know, trying to like leave ourselves out of decision making and letting our God do what he needs to with us. Seriously, it's really cool. So at a table, you're in front of yourself. Picture any position you would have your shoulders and arms in at a table, and realize, and I'll discuss it, but realize you could never do that if the table were not there. Here's the thing. If you're working on a table, you're like this. Now try to walk through life like this. The wind is moving the camera. I understand there's going to be some noise from the wind and the mic. If you're on a table, you're here, and muscles are deactivated here. Now just pretend the table's not there and try to transition like doing something at a countertop, a table, a desk, and now go into daily life. You can't. unless your feet point out. Now it feels like it's accommodating. Oh shoot, it's gonna be loud with the wind. Unless your feet are accommodating, or unless it feels like you're accommodating, but really what's happening is your pelvis is compensating and your feet arches are gone, and so your feet point out to compensate, and your whole body is just an external rotation, because all the muscles that just actually activate, just meaning the way the body works, is clear back here. And so, because like if you're holding something, you're going to hold it here and do stuff with it. You're not going to hold it the way that your body would be positioned doing something at like a tabletop or a counter out here. Even if you're not very tall, I'm 6'2" for reference, and so most counters are like right at my hips. These are my hips, that's where my pants are. I mean, but even if you're, it's almost worse. I've been thinking about this the past week or two. Actually, we had a family party for Christmas, and I was thinking about that I think it's actually worse for shorter people when it comes to countertops and tables, because they're all pretty much the same height, but people aren't. Human beings are very much varied in height. And so for me, my shoulder is naturally here. Going to a counter, it's like down here. But if you're shorter, like let's say you're just like a foot shorter than me and you're 5'2", well, just somewhere in the 5 foot range, you're going to be reaching for a counter like this rather than me just kind of like moving my hands a little bit. And so now you're like up here closer, and then everything's just going to get fatigued. Because like I'm saying, you're not going to go through life holding your hands out like this. You're just going to fall. There's no muscles that are going to support you like that. You can hold yourself like here, because like I'm saying, when you're holding something, just standing and moving, or let's say you're like sitting on the ground and you have something, or like you're holding a bowl and you're eating like this, look at my arms, look at my shoulders here versus if I had nothing in my hands. Nothing changes. It's just the position your body's in, but your hands are up. You're just bending your elbow, that's it. But in order to get to a counter, you have to like get onto it. You know, you have to alter your body's position to get to what you're gonna do on the counter or the table or the desk. Now, that's just standing. But if we talk about sitting, if you're thinking about sitting at like a picnic table, you've got like a bench on the side and the table, and on the other side there's a bench. If you're sitting, I mention all the time, and within the Truth Behind series, there's actually a video titled The Truth Behind Sitting. And I say human beings don't actually sit in chairs. When it comes to the way the body actually works, in its foundation, in everything working as a whole, activated, completely just doing the thing it was designed to do, the only thing that it actually does. Neutral positions at everything, right? The body doesn't sit in something between, something somewhere around a 90-degree bend in the knees or the hips. It doesn't happen because then you've got pressure on your hamstrings from what you're sitting on, and that deactivates your hamstring, which will deactivate your core, because the body has to work as a whole. And just the position you're in, it's a similar thing. Where are you going to put your arms? If we think about that, if you're sitting at a tabletop, that's what I'm saying is the muscles that hold your arms up connect in the back of your body. There's no muscle that holds your arm up. I mean, if there's like one or something, then okay, but pretty much no muscle, I really don't think there is, that holds your arms up, that connects into the front of your body, because the upper traps connect into the base of your skull. The mid and lower traps connect like to your, they're all on your back. Even your deltoid is just like connecting. I mean, yeah, you have a front delt, but I mean, everything that holds your own arms up, allowing you to breathe, is the key. That's really the thing, because you have to breathe. You have to expand your rib cage. And in order to do that, your arms have to elevate to get those scapulas out of the way and to just expand, ideally in 360 degrees, the rib cage. Your shoulders just have to be able to get up to do that. If they're down, your rib cage, I mean, there's just physically bones in the way. Your arms and your scapulas and your rib cage can't open unless your arms get out of the way by these muscles lifting them only in the positions they're actually connecting and inserting to contract. So sitting at a table, sitting in general, but yeah, tables, where are you going to put your arms to have your muscles work? Because you're going to have your hands on what you're sitting on, so you can bend your hands and put them in your lap. But now, like I'm saying, the insertion of those upper traps is behind your head, right off the spine. And so putting your arms here, your shoulders will follow, but now your traps are completely out of their position. So and you have a bend in your elbow as well, because you can't dangle your arms sitting down. They'll just be hitting what you're sitting on because your hands go farther down than your glutes. So sitting at a table is tables are unnatural. They really are. There would be no tables out here if there was nothing man-made. There's a bunch of trees and just flat ground and grass. This grass was planted by humans, but if something similar to it had just grown naturally, just like a plain, there'd be no tables. There'd be nothing that human beings would be using like that unless we made that. There just wouldn't. You'd be squatting, doing squatting low on the ground and just using something at a low height to keep your body activated and just working the only way that it does. You really wouldn't ever use something at a table height. You probably wouldn't even really be, you just wouldn't. So if you have your hands on the table, like sitting there, you're just gonna get cramping all through here. And I mean, again, just picture doing anything you do at a table without it there. Because what's happening is you're using the table to rest your deactivated body parts. That's why you're resting your hands on the table. And if any part of your body deactivates, something else has to do so much more work than it would ever do. The body only works as a whole. So you rest your arms on a table, and now your upper traps are completely deactivated. There's no way they could activate, even not only just because it's unnatural position, but they're just rested. And so there's no activation anywhere up here at all. You just can't. You have your weight on something. It can't activate unless it's having to. So if your whole upper part of your body is just turned off because there's no choice when it's just sitting on something, then your lower body is also turned off because your feet can't grip their arches and your hamstrings can't activate when both of those things are just in an unnatural position and the hamstring is being pressed on by the seat. So the truth behind tables is that they are unnatural. Doesn't matter your height, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter if you're doing workouts 6 times a week and then feel like you can just sit down at a table. You can't. I'm not telling you something, but the human body doesn't sit in tables. It doesn't sit on chairs. It doesn't use things like a table, even standing next to it for an extended period of time, because your muscles will just deactivate in that position. They're just out of their only contracted position. We're going through life and the human body can do so much, but only in the position it's designed to do things in. It's windy. And so you can do so much physical exertion and just continue. But what happens, I actually did a video one time titled How Rest Weakens the Body. Similar thing. You think you're going to rest by just sitting at a table for a while. Maybe you're just going to kind of fidget with something with your hands or eat. I've mentioned how we should never eat sitting. We actually have a podcast episode titled Eating Truths. I think it's episode 17 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And I discuss how you should never sit at a 90-degree or close to it bend within the knees and hips to eat. Never. And so that's a table. People are sitting at tables to eat, and I'll go into it a little bit here. You can also check out that episode of the podcast if you'd like to. When you're sitting, like I'm discussing, you've got deactivated hamstrings and deactivated unneutral now ankles and feet arches, and your core is deactivated. Your shoulders are doing all that I said, completely not able to work because of the position they're in for the contraction and because they're resting. And now you're trying to eat. And like I mentioned, the jaw stabilizes the entire body. That's its natural function. And so chewing food, you're not only training every muscle that could potentially be played into by the jaw, which is a ton, everything within your neck and within your jaw itself. The position of your head will be like this rather than neutral, tucked, but look where the shoulders have to be in order for the chin to be neutral. Here you can stand and eat, or you can sit on the ground and eat, but you cannot, I'm not telling you something, but it's the truth, you cannot sit in a chair to eat at a table and have your body work. You can't. You cannot do it. No human. You cannot. I just want to hit that so hard. It cannot happen because you cannot sit neutral at a table. So now you're chewing your food, training all these muscles within your jaw, within your neck, everything within breathing, your upper traps. There's so much deactivated. The things that I mentioned, plus just anything else that I could mention, but I don't really need to go in that much depth necessarily. And now you're training all that, plus while you're eating, it's not a bad thing, but just if you're able to grind down food between your teeth, over time you're also, in a sense, grinding down your teeth. Not in a bad way, but it just will happen. They'll just eventually wear away. And so you're wearing your teeth into the position you're eating in, being this. And now you get up from eating and you try to stand straight. And so now your digestive system can't even work normal because it has to be in its only working position to work normal. And you're never going to fix your posture unless you do things to address what's happened from the patternings, which I have had to personally do. And that's a lot of stuff to go through. It is. So, yeah. Because your teeth will get worn into the pattern of the position they're in when you eat most commonly, and then trying to go throughout life. This is not the position I'm sitting in or eating in if I'm sitting at a table, where, at least in the United States of America, is like the very, very, very much most common position that people would be eating in is at a table. It's just so unnatural. I see a picnic table over here. As I said that, my eyes went right to it. Yeah. So you just can't sit at a table. You can't. I'm not telling anybody what they can or can't do, but I am telling you how the human body's skeletal system connects. And all the muscles of the body do is operate the skeletal system. They hinge it, pivot, rotate, lift it, but it's the skeletal system that's being moved. It's nothing to do with the muscles. They're just moving something else. So it's about a position, the human body, as we always discuss at In The Image Clothing Company. And a table is not that position. Doesn't matter how tall or short you are. Because even a kid, you've got somebody who's only like 3 feet tall, a little kid. Not talking down on a little kid, but I just mean little, they're small. You can't sit at a table that way either, because now your feet are off the ground, and so at least you could like kind of activate your core maybe a little bit easier. You still can't keep your shoulders in a neutral position and like eat. I mean, it just doesn't happen, right? Ideally your upper arm pretty much always, unless you're like actually like physically doing things and they're out here and moving, but then there's muscles being recruited. At a table, like I said, it's the opposite end. Because you can hold something and pick something up. I'm not saying your arms can't work in front of you. They definitely can. But what I mean is that is like essentially the top of your arm. you have weight that you're pulling, the emphasis is up here. If you're sitting at a table, the emphasis is down here when the muscles work to contract up here. So yeah, it just doesn't happen. You can't sit at a table. Oh gosh, I get so passionate with stuff like this because it's such a simple thing. It's such a far-fetched thing to think about if you don't know. I mean, I didn't know. I'm not talking down about anybody that doesn't know. I didn't know till I was like 25 years old that the human body doesn't actually sit in chairs or sit at tables or even use table height things, desks. You know, I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, then we could get into what people do. You know, we have technology that we use on tables and desks. I'm not even going to talk about that. But like, let's say you're just writing. That's at a desk. I mean, like, look at the position my body is in writing, and it wouldn't even be this close to natural for most people, just because, again, what I've done within my own body to get it to be allowed to just be natural. But you're like writing a paper, you're like this. I mean, it's not something that you'd have in nature. I mean, it doesn't happen. It's not like in an ideal world you never do these things. It's like you only have this one body. This is your world. This is your time. There is no, yeah, I see what you're saying and it makes some sense, but that's in an ideal utopia. No, this is your only body. This is your only life that is this life. We will go on and be resurrected through Christ, but this is our life. This is it. And the human body doesn't do those things. It just doesn't. It doesn't at all. I mentioned I never stretch. It's not like I'm different, like I'm the only one that has the ability for that to happen. I'm different because I do the necessary things. I don't sit in chairs. You know, I mean, I drive when I need to go places, and that's sitting in a chair. But, you know, if in order to operate a vehicle, I'd have to do that unless I modified the car. Like, I do things that are required to allow my body to work. I'm no different other than I really do put in the effort that is necessary. So when I say we shouldn't have to stretch, and then I use myself as an example, everybody has the availability to that, but you have to be able to allow it to happen. You have to not sit at tables or chairs. You have to be able to allow your body to do things like that, like I was discussing, like eat and sleep and do all the things just in the positions they would naturally do, and then that's what's going to allow that to happen. Because if you're not willing, really is what it comes down to do what it takes to, even though the world around us looks how it does, and we're all within the same like world, if you're not willing to do what it takes to not take part in those things, to kind of like leave yourself out of those things, then you're going to just have these problems. You're going to have sore body parts. You're going to feel like you want to and you need to, even though you don't need to, stretch. So that's why it's different, but that's why, I mean, I can say this very confidently, just seeing me stand and move and just see me in videos, you can tell my body works so much differently than most all people in 2024. But it's not, again, it's not me, but it's what I'm saying here. I go through what I have to, not that it has to be a bad thing or a hard thing, but you know, if people are sitting at tables to eat, I'll stand and I'll just eat. And you just have to if you want your body to work, or sit on the ground, you know, and eat just in a natural, neutral position. So yeah, a lot of jobs, people will be sitting at tables. It's just damaging your body. Tables could mean, within all of this, table is essentially a desk, it's essentially a countertop, you know, just anything that's that height. So yeah, anyway, that's what it is, that's what it's doing. And we're going to wrap it up. But yes, anyway, a lot of passion behind this. I'm not angry. I know sometimes it might seem like when people get really passionate about things that they're upset. No, it's just I know the pain people are going through. I know it from personal experience, and I see it with people around me. And it's not a belief. It's not something that you can just choose to do or not because of any reason. It's really, the human body's skeletal system only connects the way it does. The muscles just operate that skeletal system. The muscles can't have things pressing into it like seats on the hamstrings without not allowing them to work. The traps only connect behind your head, and if your arms are out in front of you, they can't, and so it's just going to affect your body. And then everything I said with eating is a really big one, because that trains your jaw and your teeth and your whole body to be in that position throughout everything that you ever do after that, unless you can get out of that patterning. But if you do that each time you eat, you're just reinforcing the patterning deeper each time you eat. So I know that I sound like whatever I sound. I just know that I'm pretty harsh about this. I am. But it's the truth. There's a lot of places in the world where people don't really use tables the way that we do. I know, like Japan, they have very short little tables about a foot off the ground, and they'll sit cross-legged on the floor, or with their feet, however their feet are, but just on the floor, like on a cushion, and eat like that. So much more of a natural position. I love the TV show The Chosen. Yes, it's about the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's about Christ's life and ministry, and you'll see within that, that was when he was here. The year 2024 is today's year. That's why it is that. It's been 2024 years since our God, Jesus Christ, came to this earth in fleshly form. That's why we schedule our time the way that we do, is because of our God. And in that show, 2000 years ago, because he was probably in his 30s when that show, they're portraying him in his 30s throughout his ministry. His ministry was his ministry was in his 30s. So here's the thing. What I'm saying is, they sit on very low little tables there. And there's a lot of places in the world where people do that. So United States of America, we've got tables everywhere. I mean, there's tables over here, tables over here. There's a table under that tree. They're all just about the exact same height, and it's so common. People will be sitting in school at desks and spending hours a day in a position their body doesn't actually do. No opinion, it just does not. It's unfortunate. It is. And then they'll put so much emphasis on graduating school, and they'll go through so much torment for that to happen. And a lot of that has nothing to do with the school work, but it's just the position they're placing their body into for so many hours a day. So, yes, the truth behind tables. Thank you. Like I said, today is I'm not going to say it again, but we will have clothing available made out of 100% natural materials, allowing it to sit where I discussed clothing has to on every single human being, just to allow the body to be in its natural position, and it will stay centered. If you do ever purchase In The Image Clothing Company clothing, just try your best to get it in your size. Don't ever, is the reason I'm mentioning that, purchase it oversized to fit fashionably. Don't, because that's just so opposing our whole point of selling clothing as the company that we are. Okay, so thank you. It's really nice out here. It's into December in Utah, United States of America, and it's like somewhere around 40 something degrees, I think, or close to 40 degrees. It's a lot warmer than you would think of as Utah's weather being at this time of year. So I love the Truth Behind series. There's no how to. It's not how to use a table, how to use a desk, how to use a countertop. It's, let me just sit here and discuss the truth behind it. That's what this series is about. So, yeah, okay, thank you. There's no opinion in what I'm saying. I know that it seems probably far-fetched, especially to people who spend so much time sitting down at a table or just using a table or a desk. It's something that just is so absolutely unnatural for your body. I don't care who you are. You can have a different shaped body. You got a deformity or something, but I don't care who you are. It's still unnatural. I know sometimes that, people, like if you're in a wheelchair, because of like paralyzation or something, amputation. You know, there's times and places. I'm not saying that people can't ever use a table or a desk or a counter, but it's still doing the same thing to your body no matter what. So there's the truth behind tables. Thank you.